quick headlines before the intro. Today is June 9th, and the biggest AI story is Anthropic launching Claude Fable 5 and Claude Mythos 5. Anthropic says Fable 5 is its most capable generally available Claude model, with long horizon strengths in software engineering, knowledge work, vision, scientific research, and autonomous tasks. Mythos 5 is the same underlying model with some safeguards lifted, but access is restricted to Project Glasswing cyber defense partners now, with broader trusted access plan later. GitHub immediately followed with Claude Fable 5 and GitHub Copilot across VS Code, Visual Studio, Copilot CLI, Cloud Agent, GitHub.com, Mobile, JetBrains, Xcode, and Eclipse, but there is a major enterprise caveat. Fable 5 requires Anthropic to retain prompts and outputs for up to 30 days for safety classifiers. GitHub also made security validation for third-party coding agents generally available, added periodic code scanning for inactive repositories, and previewed NPM v12 security breaking changes. Cohere released North Minicode on Hugging Face, a 30 billion parameter mixture of experts coding model with only 3 billion active parameters, Apache 2.0, and training aimed directly at agentic software engineering. The theme is sharp, stronger coding agents are arriving, and the security layer is catching up fast. Receipts up. Hype down. Let's lock in.
Powered by artificial intelligence.
Story 1 is Anthropic's launch of Claude Fable 5. Anthropic describes Fable 5 as a Mythos class model that has been made safe for general use. That phrase matters because Anthropic is not just saying this is a normal model upgrade. It is saying the model sits above the Opus class in capability, but has additional safeguards to make it releasable to a broader audience. The company says Fable 5 exceeds any model it has ever made generally available, and that its lead grows on longer, more complex tasks. The examples Anthropic emphasizes are not casual chat. It points to software engineering, knowledge work, vision, scientific research, and autonomous workflows. In early testing, Anthropic says Stripe reported that Fable 5 compressed months of engineering into days on a large Ruby migration. It also points to stronger performance on coding evaluations, financial reasoning, document and table interpretation, scientific figures, visual reconstruction, and long-running games and simulations. The safety architecture is the other half of the story. Anthropic says Fable 5 has safeguards that can cause some topics to receive responses from Claude Opus 4.8 instead. That is not a minor implementation detail. It means Anthropic is trying to separate model capability from model access. The strongest model is not automatically the model you get for every request. For risky topics, especially cybersecurity, the system may route to a safer lower-tier model. Anthropic says those safeguards are tuned conservatively and trigger in less than 5% of sessions on average, but it also admits harmless requests may sometimes be caught. So the launch is both exciting and messy in the way real safety systems are messy: more capability, more routing, more policy, and more friction. The second piece is Claude Mythos 5. Anthropic says Mythos 5 is the same underlying model as Fable 5, but with safeguards lifted in some areas. That makes it a restricted access product, not a general consumer model. The initial route is Project Glasswing, Anthropic's collaboration with the United States government and cyber defense partners. Anthropic says Mythos 5 has the strongest cybersecurity capabilities of any model in the world, and that it plans to expand access through a trusted access program. This is the clearest part of the launch. Anthropic is drawing a line between broad availability and specialized high-risk capability. Fable 5 is the general release with safeguards. Mythos 5 is the controlled release for cyber defenders and infrastructure providers. Anthropic also says select biology researchers may eventually get a version with biology and chemistry safeguards lifted, again through controlled access. That tells us where frontier AI is heading. The same base capability may appear as multiple products depending on the user, the domain, and the safety boundary. Pricing is also notable. Anthropic says both Fable 5 and Mythos 5 are offered at $10 per million input tokens and $50 per million output tokens, less than half the price of Claude Mythos Preview. That makes the model expensive compared with small models, but potentially cheaper for long-horizon autonomous work if it actually uses fewer tool calls and fewer tokens. The serious question is not just price per token. It is price per completed task, plus risk per completed task. GitHub made the Anthropic story immediately practical by adding Claude Fable 5 to GitHub Copilot. The model is rolling out to Copilot Pro Plus, Max, Business, and Enterprise users, and GitHub says it will be selectable in a long list of surfaces: Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio, Copilot CLI, GitHub Copilot Cloud Agent, the Copilot app, GitHub.com, GitHub Mobile, JetBrains, Xcode, and Eclipse. In other words, this is not just a chat window model. It is being wired into the software development workflow. But there is a major privacy and admin detail. GitHub says Copilot Enterprise and Copilot Business administrators must enable the Claude Fable 5 policy in Copilot settings, and that policy is off by default. Why? Because Fable 5 requires data retention. GitHub says Anthropic retains prompts and outputs for up to 30 days to operate safety classifiers that detect harmful or abusive use. GitHub also says the retained data is deleted after 30 days and is not used to train Anthropic's models. This is the part enterprise teams should not skip. Other Claude models in GitHub Copilot, including Opus 4.8, Sonnet 4.5, and Haiku 4.5, continue under zero data retention. Fable 5 is different. So the decision is not simply, do we want the strongest model? The decision is, are we comfortable enabling a more capable model that needs temporary prompt and output retention for its safety system? For some companies, the answer will be yes because the capability is worth it. For regulated teams, legal teams, source code sensitive teams, or customers with strict data handling rules, that 30-day retention caveat may be the whole story. The most important GitHub security update today may be security validation for third-party coding agents. GitHub says it now supports third-party coding agents, including Claude and OpenAI Codex, working directly in repositories to implement features, fix bugs, and improve test coverage. Now, code generated by those agents receives the same automatic security validation that GitHub already offered for Copilot Cloud Agent. The validation stack is concrete. GitHub says agent-generated code is analyzed for potential vulnerabilities using CodeQL. Newly introduced dependencies are checked against the GitHub Advisory database. Secret scanning looks for sensitive information such as API keys and tokens. If issues are found, the agent attempts to resolve them before finalizing the pull request. GitHub says these validations are on by default, follow repository Copilot settings, and do not require a GitHub Advanced Security license. That is a big deal because the coding agent market is no longer a one-agent world. Teams may use Copilot, Codex, Claude, Devon-style agents, local agents, or internal agents. If every agent brings its own safety story, governance turns into chaos. GitHub is trying to make the repository the enforcement point. It does not matter which agent wrote the code, the repository applies the checks. Add the related periodic code scanning update, or inactive repositories using default setup can be scanned every 30 days. And the pattern is obvious. AI coding is increasing code velocity, so GitHub is increasing automated security coverage. The NPM v12 update is not a model story, but it belongs in today's AI developer stack because package install security is now agent security. GitHub says NPM v12 is estimated to release in July 2026 and introduces security-related default changes to NPM install. The theme is simple. Behaviors that run automatically today will require explicit opt-in. The headline change is allow scripts defaulting to off. That means npm install will no longer execute pre-install, install, or post-install scripts from dependencies unless they are explicitly allowed in the project. This includes native Node.js builds when npm would otherwise run an implicit rebuild. Prepare scripts from Git, file, and link dependencies are blocked the same way. GitHub says teams can inspect what would be blocked with npm approved scripts, then approve the packages they trust and deny the rest. The resulting allow list is written to package.json and should be committed. The other changes tighten remote dependency paths. The allow Git setting defaults to none, so Git dependencies are not resolved unless explicitly allowed. The allow remote setting also defaults to none, so tarballs and other remote URL dependencies do not resolve unless allowed. Why does this matter for AI? Because coding agents run install commands constantly. A human may pause before trusting an install script. An agent may not. Safer defaults reduce the blast radius when a generated change pulls in a dependency with an unexpected install time behavior. This is the quiet part of agentic coding. Every faster developer workflow needs stronger supply chain defaults underneath it. Now for the open model story. Cohere released North Minicode on Hugging Face, calling it the first model in a new family and Cohere's first model for developers. The specs are interesting: 30 billion total parameters, 3 billion active parameters, mixture of experts architecture, and Apache 2.0 licensing. That means developers can inspect, run, fine-tune, and integrate it more freely than a closed API-only model. Cohere says North Minicode is aimed at complex software engineering workflows, terminal-based agentic tasks, and high-quality code generation. The post describes a decoder-only sparse mixture of experts transformer, interleaving sliding window attention and global attention. The training story is also tuned to the current agent era. Cohere says it used staged supervised fine-tuning followed by reinforcement learning with verifiable rewards, with data focused on executable, verified agentic, and reasoning-driven tasks. It also says the environments include software engineering tasks from real-world repositories and terminal-based tasks, with over 70,000 verifiable tasks across about 5,000 unique repositories. The most useful detail is cross-harness robustness. A coding model that only works inside one scaffold is fragile. Cohere says it trained North Minicode across multiple harnesses instead of overfitting to one agent interface. That matters because developers use different tools: SWE agent, mini SWE agent, OpenCode, terminal harnesses, custom agents, and internal systems. A small active parameter open model that generalizes across those settings is exactly where open source coding agents need to go. It will not replace the very top closed frontier models for every task. But it can become a practical foundation for local, cheaper, customizable agentic coding workflows. One more story worth watching is ServiceNow AI's benchmark for code-switched speech. The problem is practical. More than half the world's population speaks more than one language, and many bilingual speakers switch languages naturally, even inside one sentence. That is not a corner case for global support desks. It is normal user behavior. ServiceNow focused on automatic speech recognition because transcription is the first step in a voice agent pipeline. If the transcript is wrong, the downstream agent can misroute a ticket, misunderstand a policy question, or give the wrong support step. The benchmark covers Spanish English, French English, Canadian French English, and German English in enterprise HR and IT service management scenarios. It reports word error rate, semantic word error rate, and answer error rate, so the evaluation is not only about exact transcription. It also asks whether the meaning survives and whether downstream answers stay correct. The headline finding is that code switching cost varies by language pair and model, with 11 Labs Scribe v2, Gemini 3 Flash, and Assembly AI Universal 3 Pro surfacing as top performers across metrics in their tests. For the channel, the takeaway is bigger than the specific ranking. Voice agents are becoming more useful, but real deployments are multilingual, noisy, emotional, and full of context. If AI agents are going to answer phones, handle support, or triage employees, they need to understand how people actually talk, not only how benchmark prompts are written. Here is the watch list. First, watch Fable 5 in real coding workflows. Anthropic is claiming major gains on long horizon tasks. The question is how often those gains survive inside real repositories, real constraints, real review processes, and real safety routing. If the safeguards trigger rarely and sensibly, this could be a very strong model launch. If false positives hit important workflows, enterprise teams will notice quickly. Second, watch the Copilot retention policy. The most capable model in the picker may not be the easiest model for an enterprise to approve. Some admins will enable Fable 5 immediately because the productivity upside is obvious. Others will wait because prompt and output retention, even for 30 days and even without training, is a governance decision. Third, watch GitHub's agent security layer. The repository is becoming the place where AI-written code gets checked, regardless of which agent wrote it. That is healthy. But we should also watch whether agents can actually fix the issues they trigger, or whether humans still end up holding the cleanup bag. Fourth, watch npm v12. Safer package install defaults are the right direction, especially in an agentic world. But breaking changes will surface old assumptions in build pipelines. The teams that prepare now will have a smoother July. And finally, watch open coding models like North Minicode. A smaller active model trained for agentic workflows, released under Apache 2.0, is exactly the kind of thing that can make private, local, cheaper developer agents more real. Today's signal is not one model standing alone. It is the whole AI coding stack getting faster, stronger, and more governed at the same time.